Hey guys, it's your girl Kizzy Rock, and yes, Kizzy Rock is my birth given name. Happy Friday. Want to say hey to all my subscribers, new as well this season. I got a word for you. Tap in. Happy Friday, guys. So I want to share with you guys a very profound download that I received. Now, this is not for everyone. Of course, no, every message is not for everyone. But if this is for you, you will know. It will be clear confirmation to your spirit. So do not allow anyone to tell you anything different than what you feel in your spirit, anything different that God has shared with you. It will not make sense to everybody else. And this is why God calls, when a lot of the times when God gives you visions, it requires you to keep it to yourself until the time comes. And if the time comes where God will require you to get wise counsel, or either share it with other people because certain other people may have to come in. But all of that, you will know clear as day when that time comes. But a lot of the times, God will require you to remain silent because the things that He is showing you, most people won't. They won't be able to grasp it. See, you feel it in your spirit. They can't see what you feel. They can't see what you feel. So when you're telling them certain things, that God have you waiting on this, God has promised you this, God have called you to relocate here because of this particular reason, God have told you to go ahead and buy that wedding dress even though there's no groom in sight, God have told you that, people will think that you're insane. So you got to keep certain visions and promises that God has promised you in your spirit. So the profound download that I received was, some of us have had the wrong insight. You've had the wrong insight, or you have limited insight. See, what I've encountered is you won't be able to receive certain insights until you are actually already in the land, wherever God has called you to. So God has maybe opened, even if you've only been there temporary to get your feet in the door, but God have pulled you back out. Wherever it is, wherever you've put your feet in the promised land, sometimes you won't get certain insights until you get there. Until you get there. This is why it's crucial. If God is calling you to relocate, or you feel like God is calling you to put yourself in a certain environment, you got to remain obedient, because He's not going to release certain things to you until you are obedient into your instruction. Then once you get there, things start to flow. So you won't see certain releases until you get to wherever God is calling you, until you get access to that room, access to that person, access to that place. That's when you will really start to see how God is unfolding certain things. And you may get thrown back in the season of stillness. But within that season of stillness, God will give you more insight. God will even change your insight, and you'll start to see things for really what it is. So let's say, for example, because I know I can get really deep at times, so I like to use examples. Let's say God has promised you a spouse. But in your limited mind, you're just thinking like, okay, God has promised me a spouse. Let me go get a cute wedding dress or a cute tuxedo, and I'm just going to be a happy bride or a happy groom. And that's it. That's limited insight. Where God may have it like, when you guys do come together, there's going to be a vision so big, so huge, so grand, that how He's going to use you guys. So the whole time, your limited thinking and your insight is just telling you that you're going to get a man or you're going to get a woman. Where God is going to really take and merge certain things, and you guys may be on stages all around the world somewhere. You may be doing ministry all around the world. So this is why you have to go through the pruning process. This is why you're going through the fire, and you're trying to figure out, why do I have to go through all this if God is just going to bring me a spouse? Well, it's because you have limited insight and limited perspective, where God already knows how He's going to use this thing. This is why it's important to just be obedient to the instructions without trying to figure out. If you try to figure out what God is doing, you're never going to move. Like you're never going to move your feet if you have to feel what God is doing before you take the step. You can have a clear revelation that God needs you to take a step out on faith, and you will really hold back because you need to know what God is doing. A lot of the times, God will not show you what he's doing until you take that first step. Let's say God has promised you a certain ministry, a certain room of people. Well, there's nobody in the else that God have attempted to use that can see past this person's celebrity, that can see past. Okay, like sometimes you can be very intimidated around people who you deem to be more, maybe more powerful in your own eyes, more powerful than yourself, more established than yourself. That can be very intimidating. And this is why a lot of the people have, what do you call it when a person just, what is it called? There's a certain word I'm trying to think about. But basically a do-man or... and I use the word all the time, but basically the person, because they're on the payroll maybe, but they're afraid, they see certain things, but then they're afraid to bring it to the person's attention because either you're on the payroll or because you deem this person to be maybe more inclined than yourself. And so you're hesitating, even though God is telling you clear as day, I need you to say this. I need you to bring this to their attention. Well, here comes little you, right? Who the enemy is trying to really make you feel like you have no confidence and you have no this and you have no that, right? He really already beat you down so bad that you feel like you don't have anything to give. And now God is tapping you like, listen, I'm rising you up. So when I put you in certain environments, if I say this, say this. If I say do this, do that. So in your mind, you feel like God has just promised you in the ministry. Okay, great. So you're making your own plans. Well, when God opens this door, I'm going to do A, B, C, and D. I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. Like you have your own little vision board about what you're going to do when God opens this door for you. And this is why God is shutting down a lot of the things right now that we're working on, because that's what we think we're going to do. So once you get there, right, then God starts to give you more insights. Or even now, God is giving out certain insights and he's showing you like you had this idea of this. Yes, the promise remains, but the details are different. And so I need you to release your detail package, whatever you've built. Release that. Because once you release that, then I can start giving you certain insights. But the main scenario is you cannot conform to the room. You yourself cannot conform to the room. So many of you, you're there to change the room. But again, if you start talking to people, people will tell you certain things like, well, you can't change anybody. You can't change because we all have free will and we all have, which is absolutely true. But if you have a clear-cut download from the Holy Spirit that you're going to be used in a way that other people may not be able to understand, God has given you a certain download that you can't shake in your spirit, that when you get there, the room will conform to you. Stick to that and allow God to continue to build you through discipline, going through that fire, because you're going to need it. You're going to need it because again, once you get to certain places and certain rooms or whatever, you can feel very intimidated. This is why your obedience is going to have to override your emotions, because a lot of the times you're going to really feel like, oh, I can't do this and do that. But if you're obedient to the conviction, I can't tell you I can't tell you guys how many times God had hit me with and again, like I was saying earlier, sometimes you don't even know until you get there, right? You're thinking you're just going to do one thing or you're just going to have a great time somewhere. As soon as you hit the environment, then boom, there's a conviction. I need you to say this, do this. And you're just like, Lord. Could you at least told me this last month so I could have kind of prepared myself and try to build myself up in some kind of way, right? But your conviction and your obedience is going to have to override your emotions. And each time I did it, I can't tell you the reaction. It's like you know God used you for this particular reason. And the person always receive it in the way that they themselves need to receive it. You may not even know yourself. Well, you won't know why God had you to say it. That's between them and God. Your job is just to be the vessel. So whatever God have shown you, whatever you feel in your spirit, other people can't see what you feel. So they can't understand it. So they're going to tell you if you're not careful. God wouldn't tell you to do this. God wouldn't say this. If you don't feel it in your spirit, then be wise and listen. But if you feel it in your spirit and you know that God have called you to a particular person, place, or thing, if no one else in the world will agree with you, you got to be so confident knowing what you feel in your spirit. But again, the major test is going to be when you get there, will you forget everything that you promised God that you would or would not do? Will you conform to the room? Because the room is going to look really good. And if you're not careful, you're going to be serving their gods or whatever they got going on. God is calling you over there to change some things. And this is why he's building you up now. We want to always fight against the process because we don't see anything happening. But this is why God is building up your strength now and giving you that confidence, because you're going to need confidence. He's giving you that confidence now. He's really building up your self-esteem. He's building up your power. He's building up every single thing that you're going to need. You are to change the room. Whatever that room is for you. It's your girl, Kizzy Rock.